All right, let's dive right in. We're going to travel back in time, about 2,500 years, to a place called Persepolis. You know, in Greek, that name literally means the city of the Persians. And this wasn't just any city. It was the absolute showstopper, the magnificent ceremonial capital of the ancient Achaemenid Empire. You have to understand, at its peak, this place was the glittering heart of the largest empire the world had ever seen. I mean, ancient historians wrote about it like it was a myth, calling it the richest city on the entire planet. It was basically a spectacular stage built for one reason, to project unbelievable power, wealth, and prestige to anyone who was lucky enough to enter. But here's the thing, its glory was shockingly brief. After only 200 years of splendor, this incredible symbol of imperial power was looted and just consumed by fire. It vanished from history in a single catastrophic night. And while that sets up the epic story we're diving into today. So how does a place like this even come to exist? Well, it all started with a vision of one guy, Darius the Great. See, he wasn't interested in building just another boring administrative capital. No, his goal was way bigger. He wanted to create a breathtaking ceremonial center, basically a stage for the entire empire's grandest rituals. And just look at this timeline for a second. It was founded around 518 BCE by Darius. Then his son, Xerxes, made it even bigger. But then, it only stood for about 2 centuries before it was completely wiped off the map in 330 BCE by Alexander the Great. Talk about a short, brilliant life for a wonder of the world. And what's really fascinating is what this city was actually for. Persepolis wasn't a place where people lived. There were no neighborhoods, no marketplaces. It was a meticulously designed space purely for imperial ceremonies, especially for huge festivals like Nowruz, the Persian New Year. That's when all the dignitaries from across the empire would come together. Okay, so now let's actually take a walk through this architectural masterpiece. I want you to imagine you're a visiting dignitary 2,500 years ago and you're about to witness the very heart of Persian power for the first time. Your journey starts at this massive grand stairway, and the steps are famously shallow, on purpose. They were designed so you had to walk up slowly, with dignity. You couldn't just rush in. Then you'd pass through the colossal gate of all nations, until finally you'd be standing right in front of the most magnificent building of them all, the Apadana Audience Hall. And guarding that gateway are these incredible creatures. They're called lamassu. Now, the Persians actually borrowed this idea from the Assyrians and Babylonians, and these things are huge, winged bulls with bearded human heads. They weren't just statues, they were seen as powerful, supernatural guardians meant to keep evil away. And you know what's amazing? We don't even have to guess what the builders were thinking. King Xerxes literally had this message carved right onto the gate in 3 different languages. It's this incredibly powerful statement that's part royal authority, part divine favor, giving all the credit for the city's beauty to the god Ahura Mazda. Okay, so now we're at the Apadana Palace. And this is where things get really interesting, because the walls themselves tell the story of the empire. This is where Persepolis truly broadcast its vision to the entire world. Carved into the palace stairways, in stunning detail, are delegations from every single corner of the Persian Empire. I mean, we're talking about an incredible 23 different nations, all shown bringing their absolute best gifts to the King of Kings. And the detail is just extraordinary. You can literally see Armenians bringing a prized horse, Lydians offering these intricate metal vessels, Babylonians leading a humped bull, and even Indians carrying bottles of perfume. It's like a perfect frozen snapshot of the sheer wealth and diversity of the ancient world. You know, this was absolutely brilliant political messaging. It was like a masterclass in ancient soft power. Think about it. Other empires would show their conquered enemies in chains, defeated. But not the Persians. They showed their subjects as respected partners, all willingly bringing gifts to make the empire great. It was a visual masterpiece, all about unity through diversity. And then, everything changed. In 330 BCE, the unstoppable Macedonian army, led by none other than Alexander the Great, arrived at the gates of Persepolis. And this was the beginning of the end. And this right here brings us to one of history's great mysteries, a question that historians still argue about. Why? Why did Alexander burn this architectural masterpiece to the ground? Was it a cold, calculated act of war? A drunken accident? Or something else entirely?
So there are pretty much three main theories on the table. The first one, which comes mostly from Greek and Roman writers, is simple revenge. The story goes that at a drunken party, Alexander was talked into burning the city to get back at the Persians for when Xerxes burned Athens. Theory 2, it was just a terrible accident that got out of control. And theory 3, pure strategy. Destroying Persepolis meant destroying the spiritual heart of the Persian Empire, which would make it impossible for them to rally and fight back.
Now, there's no question, the fire was an absolute catastrophe. But in the ashes of Persepolis, there's this strange and fascinating paradox about what was lost and what, against all odds, was actually saved by the fire itself. So here's the great paradox. The flames, right? They destroyed priceless treasures. We're talking artworks, royal tapestries, sacred religious texts written on parchment, all gone forever. But that same intense heat baked thousands of simple clay tablets, turning them as hard as rock and accidentally preserving them for thousands of years. And these tablets, they turned out to be an absolute goldmine for historians. They're basically a massive administrative archive. They detail everything from who paid their taxes to how much food was given to workers. They give us this incredible day-to-day look at how this huge empire actually worked. And that leaves us with this final, fascinating question to think about. If Persepolis had never burned, if Alexander had spared the city, sure, we would have its magnificent art and its lost literature, but would we have also lost those humble clay records that told us how it all actually functioned? It's the tragic and really complicated legacy of the city of the Persians.